Welcome to the Buck Stops here, the official audio program of NotInHallOfFame.com, and I'm your host, Kirk Buchner, the Buck, the owner, the operator of NotInHallOfFame.com, and of course the sister sites, the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame and the Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's Season 1, Episode 31 of the Hall of Fame show, and Evan Nolan and I, we've got quite a bit to talk about. You might think it's sort of a quiet week in the Hall of Fame world, but really it isn't. The Pro Football Hall of Fame has made an announcement that we're not really too fond of. They've now decided how they're going to move forward regarding the seniors, coaches, and contributors for the next 4 years. And if you are a senior candidate, it's not good news. We also take a look at the hypocrisy of Jann Wenner. I know he's not the guy anymore at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but a couple other little stories came out that we thought would be sort of interest. We also looked at the term limits. Term limits that actually don't exist for any of the Halls of Fame for all the committees, and just something that little Stevie Van Zandt had to say that really rubbed us the wrong way. Without further ado, let's bring in Evan. Evan, how are you? How are things in the big windy city?
I have to tell you, I've enjoyed the intensity of the sports that are going on out there. I mean, marble racing right now is going crazy. The Rangers, or my team, has been so good, teams are accusing them of juicing, being the Oranges, sorry. But no, things are good. How are things with you?
They're fantastic here in lovely Barbados. Though in something that could almost felt Trumpian, if that's a word. Barbados is sort of an interesting country. They produce like a lot of doctors and nurses, but a lot of them will leave, because they can make money better money elsewhere. So they imported 55 nurses from Ghana last week, 10 of which tested positive for COVID.
Oh, makes sense.
So it's so weird.
The United States, I was going to say, the United States today changed their status, calling the New Zealand a country that America should worry about traveling to, since their percentage went up so much in the last week. It went from 0 to 23 cases, all of whom are isolated. And that was too dangerous for Americans as opposed to staying here.
I shouldn't laugh.
Yeah, well.
But
what else are you going to do, cry?
Yeah, exactly. So first off, thank you, because you sent off something to me today before we were going to go on the call that it completely sort of slipped my mind to even look for new news. I've just been all engrossed in the National Hockey League being back, and I think we've got the opening thing just to talk about, because the Pro Football Hall of Fame made a very good/bad announcement. Good if you're a coach, bad if you're a veteran or a senior candidate in regards to the Football Hall of Fame in the future. It's going to be 5-1-1-1. So 5-1-1-1. Five players again. That's not going to change. One coach, one contributor, and only one senior. And I'm so disappointed in the senior. Like this was such a chance to get it right.
Yeah, and let's go back to the NFL 100 class, right? So we had 10 players get in. Was it 5 contributors, 3 coaches? Am I remembering this correctly?
No. 5.
No, 3. There's 3 and 2. There's 3 and 2, right? 5, 3 and 2, and then there are the 5 modern candidates. Thank you.
Right.
So we had 20 going in, but so 10 got in, and they're like, oh, that's great. We got our 10 in. But now there's only going to be, they alternated 1 senior and 2 contributors over the last few years, and now we're just getting 1 going forward. Had they just kept it at 2 a year like they always had from 24 up to 2014, we would have had 20 getting in. The way we're doing it now, we're going to have 21 getting it in over that same time period, and 10 got in that 1 year. There's too much of a backlog to do what they're doing. And when they came with the preliminary list for the NFL 100, there were 200 names for players, 43 for contributors, and 13 for coaches.
Yeah, so even by their own math, they're off.
Yeah, clearly by the backlog is on the player's side, and yet they really want. I mean, I think Robert Kraft is getting in anyway. That was the name I keep saying. They're trying to get Kraft in. I think Kraft is getting in anyway. They really just want Art Modell in. Is what's going on here. Because I mean, you're going to get 5 years of this, right, with contributors. I'm presuming you have Kraft as one of them, and then I guess it's what Bud Adams, Art Modell, and two random people, one of whom will definitely not be a referee because I don't have any of those in the NFL Hall of Fame, which is also a travesty.
Mm-hmm. I'd put in Ed Hockley's biceps.
Yeah.
Just the biceps.
Yeah, and biceps and also his explanations. His explanations were pretty wonderful as well.
Love that guy.
They'll probably put the ref in from, what is it, the longest yard? He goes Tai Chi, kick to the chin. Can't remember exactly what movie that was. All my movies have gone together.
Well, they'll put in the fail Mary guy.
Yeah, people were saying, though, this is really good news for Tom Flores and Don Coryell. I just can't wait to see everybody go insane when they put Clark Shaughnessy in first.
It could happen. I mean, like I'm just picturing David Baker just thinking, all right, which one of these dead guys' caskets will make the best sound when I knock on it?
Wow. Hey, actually, with the 5 contributors, we named 3 owners. David Baker has a shot now.
I maintain you've come up with the best line of 2020 when you said that David Baker was making his Hall of Fame case for himself.
Yeah. This is going to give him a legitimate way to get in.
I agree with you.
It's good for, in certain ways, it is super disappointing for the backlog. I know last week you had the whole additional interview at the end about with that guy talking about Steve Tasker.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tasker, with this change, this one change alone, because who knows what happens after that, unless they go to 3 candidates for seniors after they get through this 5-year period, I think Tasker doesn't get into the Hall of Fame while he's alive. I think that's what this does.
And not just him. Like, there's so many other people. Like, I'm trying to think, like, off the top of my head, the 2 people, because I just did a quick article about that, who I think, I don't know if it necessarily affects them the most, but they were the 2 most hurt, that being Randy Gradishar and Drew Pearson. I still have that image of Pearson just upset on television.
Mm-hmm.
And just how he felt all about that.
I mean, Drew Pearson is the only person on offense from the 70s, 80s, or 90s all-decade teams who's not in.
That's not including special teams, though, right?
Yeah, I said offense.
Offense. Okay, sorry. All right.
Yeah. He's the only guy on offense on all of those teams, and he was the first team. And in the 100, again, first team, second team, whatever. But on the NFL 100, they put in the second team guy, Harold Carmichael, over him.
Oh, that's right. And that's exactly when he had to have known that he wasn't getting in. We saw Carmichael on television.
Yeah.
Because he was I think if I remember right, he was the first guy that they brought out to the NFL Network studios when they stretched that abomination for 2 hours.
That was an abomination.
It was. It was. It was disgusting. It was unnecessary, and it just made me feel so. It just reminded me so much of that. More of that when Major League Baseball, I guess MLB Network, had their Baseball Hall of Fame stuff, and it was just, here's who's in. You know what? And that's how you do it. And then you just sort of like set up the interviews after. You don't need to make it a long, drawn-out thing. You're going to get your ratings. Anyone who's going to care is going to care. They're just going to get pissed off when you drag it out longer. I know I did.
Yeah.
So, I got to imagine what Pearson's feeling right now. Like, it's... I can't even imagine. Because also, too, sometimes when anyone gets a little bit chippy or pissed off, that almost makes some of those people on the committee just say, well, to hell with them.
I mean, that's also dumb.
Of course, absolutely it is. But people will do things. One thing I did notice that I thought was sort of interesting, they've there's 2 people who are now out and 2 people in for the 48-man committee. So I believe, I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. So the 2 people, Bill Polian, a Hall of Famer himself, inducted in 2015, and Lisa Salters, who people would remember her, not remember, she's still doing that, sideline on Monday Night Football. Or is it Thursday Night Football? Doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure she's the first African-American woman to be on this committee.
Yeah, I'm 97% sure that is true.
Yeah, so it's sort of nice to see them doing something a little bit diverse. And so, I applaud them for that. And why not, Lisa? There's a lot of people who could be part of this and are qualified, and she's one of them.
Right, yeah. Hold on, I'm putting new voters in Pro Football Hall.
Yeah, so it's just...
Who did they replace? Who got replaced?
Oh, I just wrote this too. I'm always prepared. 2 names that really aren't that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. Because if they were that big a deal, I'd remember it. But then again, I did a lot of crap, so the 90s were good to me. I'll leave it at that. While I'm looking at that, my doctor said stop drinking today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but he's a Bajan doctor, so I don't know whether I should necessarily listen to that, because everyone drinks here. Replacing Ira Miller and Vito Stellino.
Ira Miller and Vito Stellino, huh?
Mm-hmm. I think I get a pass for not remembering those 2 names.
Vito Stellino.
I think, wasn't he one of the original Sweat Hogs?
Yeah, he and Arnold Horshack did a lot of partying together. So Vito Stellino worked for the 40 years, or 6 decades, working for UPI in Detroit, New York, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Jacksonville. Yeah. And the other one was Ira who?
Ira Miller.
I want to say Ira Hayes, but that's one of the guys who raised the flag in Iwo Jima.
I thought that was Isaac Hayes. Oh, no, that's Shaft.
No, it's Shaft. No, Ira Hayes is a great song by Johnny Cash as well. From a good song, I type in Ira Miller. He's not the first one that comes up. Miller is the 1993 winner of the Dick Mccann Memorial Award for the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
So not as impressive.
29-year tenure as a football writer for the San Francisco Chronicle.
Okay. So he won that award, but not the Buckeye News Hawk Award.
Brooks movie High Anxiety. I'm sorry, what? I talked over your head.
No, so he won that award, but not the Buckeye News Hawk Award.
I suppose not, but he did appear, like I said, in one scene of Mel Brooks' movie High Anxiety. So
perfect. Yeah, so I think this segues into something that I really want to get your take on. I sent you a couple things this week that I kind of wanted to talk about, and it's about term limits.
Yeah, that was with the Rock Hall, but yeah.
But I thought this sort of like fits like all across the board. One thing I'm sort of playing around with on the site is I'm just sort of like listing all the people who can vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame. One of them is 100 years old.
Well, I mean, he's one of the younger fans, isn't he?
Well, you know what? If he goes into one of the stadiums, he would be the youngest fan.
I suppose that is true. It is funny going on the ESPN stuff, and it's like fans in attendance. There are no fans allowed at this game. So.
But I think there's just something to that whole conversation of just fixed term limits for people on a committee. 10 years, that's it. I don't know that there's anything where you should be able to be on something for life. Yeah, and that would give. Well, I've always been in favor of for Congress that you can do
24 years total in Congress. 6 terms as a representative for 12 years and 2 terms as a senator for 12 years. Mm-hmm. And after that, you don't know enough to still be in office. You know what I mean? The world has passed you by. The reason that all these technological things don't get taken care of the way they're supposed to is up until, 10 years ago, we had senators thinking that the internet was a series of games. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, what you were talking about was an exchange with Stevie Van Zandt on Twitter with Billboard, correct?
Yeah. Actually, let me bring that up. This one I did prepare ahead of time. So this should prove that I'm not completely ill-prepared, although now nothing's coming up, of course. Okay, here we go. So this, it was something that he said. All right, so Billboard put out a tweet. Harry Styles is the world's biggest young rock star. Why won't rock radio play him? Stevie Van Zandt replies, because solo acts are pop bands are rock. To get rock respect, you have to be in a band. Bob Dylan is the only exception to the rule and will remain so forevermore. Tell Harry to call me and I'll put a band together for him. It's a lot more fun than being solo. Because Harry knows nothing about being in a group. Then somebody responded to him. Linda Ronstadt and Pet Benatar are rock stars. Response: in a way, but really more like rock and pop stars. To which a gentleman named Mike Scott, must be a big deal. He's got a blue check mark. Jerry Lee Lewis, Chuck Berry, and Little Richard all broke as solo artists. Not out of bands. All were rock. And Meatloaf. To which you had the greatest response of all when I sent that to you.
Yeah, I don't know how great my response was, but I mean, you and I have discussed many, many times on this show the lack of women in the Rock Hall, and you think it's more justified than I do. Difference of opinion, but I at least see where you're coming from. But one of the women who has advocated for getting in there, and probably, in my opinion, maybe Percy Sledge is the other one, but one of the least qualified people for being in the Rock Hall is Darlene Love.
Absolutely.
Darlene Love is a fabulous, fabulous singer and has one novelty hit, that Christmas song that she sang on Letterman every single year while Letterman was on the air. And who is the head of Letterman's band other than Max Weinberg? Who else is up on there?
That'd be Mr. Paul Schaefer.
I'm sorry, Mr. Paul Schaefer. But yeah, but Paul Schaefer and Little Stevie were the ones who got Darlene Love into the Rock Hall. They were like advocating and calling things around. If he doesn't think that non-bands belong in the Rock Hall, what the hell is he doing advocating for a one-hit novelty song person like Darlene Love?
I don't understand any of his logic at all. Like, is that headband on too tight? Is the wig glue from playing what was it? Damn, I forgot the damn character's name from Sopranos. Silvio Dante?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Okay. It's been a long time.
Yeah. I want to say Silvio Dante. I might be wrong. Doesn't matter. Like, is he? What is he sniffing? If Bruce Springsteen was just Bruce Springsteen and the regular band, technically that makes him a solo artist. When was the guy, Harry Styles, when he's going out performing, he's not going out a cappella. He's got his backing band. Mm-hmm. What the hell is he? It's just basically the name that they're always doing it. Taylor Swift, I'm sure, I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure she's using a lot of the same studio musicians that she's comfortable with. And then when she goes out on tour, I'm sure it's a lot of the same people.
Yeah, and then you have people who are, when they used to induct sidemen, people like Leon Russell, who just went from group to group to group, basically making everyone better.
Yes.
And performing with this person on this tour or this album or whatever. And Leon Russell's in the Rock Hall. But it doesn't, by the way, his character's name is Silvio Dante.
So I got that right. All right. Yay.
Yeah. Congratulations. Only Walnuts will give you a roar in the other room. Just be quiet about it. It doesn't make any sense. And if any organization needs new people in charge of making decisions of any of these halls, it's got to be Jann Wenner and his boys club.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they just need to stop going for the people they played with or represented and let new people come in, because honestly, I don't really care at this point what 70-year-old little Stevie Van Zandt thinks about rock and roll.
Well, especially after this. I mean, it's the same archaic Gene Simmons representation of what he thinks rock and roll is.
And Gene Simmons had a lot of trouble getting into the Rock Hall because there was one of the people who said they would die first for allowing Kiss on the ballot.
Yes, which was Wenner. Or I think he said, as long as I'm in charge, it'll never happen. I mean, it did happen on his watch, but still.
Yeah, well, there was someone else, though, who was also said that. I can't remember who it was this one. It wasn't just Wenner. There was another guy, too.
Oh, was there? Okay.
I know. Wenner's 74 now. So, but he's still involved in all this other stuff. And, yeah, I don't know. I don't think, dude. Do you actually think they're going to come up with people for us to look at in September or October?
No. I honestly don't. I mean, like a list of finalists, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think everything's going to get pushed back. I mean, I could be wrong. There really shouldn't be any reason for it to be. They can do their meeting in Zoom, like the NFL draft did. I don't know that there's going to be an NFL season like you suggested, and I think you're right about that. But and I want to be also like very sort of clear. Like, the one ism I hate the most is ageism, because it seems to be the one ism that is always accepted. But if you're not changing and open to new ideas, then I don't want to sort of like hear from you anymore. Mm-hmm. People grow, and they can grow at 70. They can be exposed to new things at 70. My dad yells at me for not using Skype enough, and he's 78 today. So. But
my dad was a notoriously bad typer, and towards the end of his life in his early 80s, we picked up that Dragon software, so he could still write his stuff by speaking into the computer. And he was super proud of himself.
So I mean, so I just want to be sort of like super clear on that, because I get really bummed out, maybe because I'm getting older myself, when that sort of thought process sort of permeates. But this is what little Stevie's doing is so close-minded, especially despite the evidence to the contrary, from an era that he worships.
Right.
Like, I don't understand his complete logic on this. I can't even imagine what he must be like in that room.
Well, at least it makes a little bit of sense if his ideas are anywhere prevalent amongst the people who are voting. Makes a little bit of sense as to why Pat Benatar didn't get in last year when we were all convinced. Well,
yeah, but Benatar still got on that, like on the ballot. It was the voters that didn't put her in.
No, true. But my point is, no. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, if there are within the voters, not the people in the nominating committee, because all of the people on the outside, like all of us, Tom Lane, Alex Voltaire, like all the people over at Future Rock Legends, everybody was like, well, Benatar's a shoo-in.
Us too, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying us as well.
Sorry,
right?
Yeah.
But my point is, if there are more people out there who think like little Stevie who vote than we realize, at least it explains it. If rock needs a band, right? That at least it explains it a little bit more. Now, it also may be that they have trouble putting in more than one woman at a time, which I'm sure also contributes to that. But
there's that.
It was interesting. And the other one person brought up, Linda Ronstadt, never got in the ballot until she lost her voice. And then she lost her voice. It's sort of like after Donna Summer passed away after being in the ballot 4 times since she got elected. Mm-hmm. Women almost need a tragic backstory in order to get in.
And Janis Joplin got in after she died too.
And his sister is at a Tharp as well. So
that's true. That's true.
But no, I mean, there need to be term limits on all these things, and whether it's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is. Will Stevie's been on the committee since 1986. Mm-hmm. So that's 34. Whatever the number is, 34 is at least 14 years too long.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, and it's, again, not an ageism thing, just, different ideas, different opinions, more women on that committee, more of what sort of what is representative of what's going out there. But just prove that you've got either A history or B of a written history of that you're paying attention. Because
right.
There's some people who might be on that committee who just don't care.
We should have asked for their seats.
Yeah, well, who knows? Things can happen. When I had the chance to talk to Evelyn McDonald, who's a Rock Hall voter. So one of the things that sort of stuck out to me was that. So when I asked her, how many other voters are there? She doesn't know. They're not sharing that information. But she appreciated the fact that they asked her to if there's other qualified women who would be interested in that. So I mean that shows something to me that they're trying to rectify this, or at least make it look like the population that listens to music. Mm-hmm. But there's still a broken idea with that. Of course, when we create our U.S. Hall of Fame committee, we're grandfathered in for life. That's different. Justice for
corrupts absolutely, my friend.
That's right. Yeah, justice for thee, but not for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we won't be, 70 for. Oh God, it's way too close. Anyway,
closer to that than 20.
Yeah, I was going to say, it does remind me a little bit, though, of when SNL, they were called out for not having any black women on their cast, and they're basically, well, black women aren't funny, essentially was their response.
Did they actually say something like that?
They found a whole bunch of black women who are funny, and they're like, funny, if you actually go looking for them, they show up. It's the same sort of thing.
Well, did you ever see on Netflix A Futile and Stupid Gesture?
No.
Okay, so that's it was the biopic of crap. I can't even remember his name, but he was the guy who wrote Animal House.
Okay.
And sort of founded not Mad Magazine.
National Lampoon.
Thank you. Yes, National Lampoon. Thank you. So he did that. And
Chris Miller.
I'm sorry.
Chris Miller.
No, it wasn't Chris Miller.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so as they're doing a biopic, they're doing an older version of him, even though he actually took his own life in 1981. But that they sort of explain that in the movie, and it's Martin Mull playing the older version of the character. And so as he's sort of describing everything, he said how come you didn't have any black people on staff? He says, well, honestly, I didn't know black people were funny then. And it was one of those things where, Martin Mull made that work far better than I did, just right there. But it was sort of a weird attitude where I think humor sort of works in your circle. And then when you try to take that outside of that, it's harder to sort of get other people's jokes. I'll never understand how Medea is funny.
Oh, don't even get me started on, oh God, what's the guy with the puppets and,
Jeff Dunham?
That terrifying stick guy. Oh,
yeah,
God, that guy is anti-funny, yet is super, super popular.
Well, it's like my friend back in Canada. I always say to him, yeah, but you guys think Medea's funny. Yeah, well, you guys think Carrot Top's funny. That's that. Where do you go from that?
Yeah. Douglas Kenny, is that who you're talking about?
Thank you, Doug Kenny. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I recommend that one on Netflix.
Good. Keep going.
Yeah, no, just I recommend that. But sort of it's a long-winded way of just saying new opinions, new ideas. Just bring them all in, bring them forth, because there's a hell of a lot more than just 40 people in a room that can sort of give opinions on who should be in these halls.
Right.
And
no, exactly.
And there's what, 397?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, there's 397 in baseball who do that. And I'm sure there's 397 others.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason this can't be rotated out.
Yeah, agreed. No, I was going to say, though, going back to the he didn't realize black people are funny makes me think again about that interview with MTV, the guy who founded MTV that David Bowie did, asking why there weren't more black in music videos. And basically they're saying, well, they're really good, but people basically in the Midwest aren't ready for them. He's like, well, that's interesting. I just kind of feel like that was a pervasive thought in the late 70s, early 80s in general, that all that stuff was discounted just in general. So,
which is so idiotic for a music station to sort of come up with that. You throw a bunch of stuff at a wall and see what's going to stick. How many? Look at all the channels now. And I always think about this. Arts and entertainment is not arts and entertainment anymore. It does not represent anything of what that founder sort of envisioned that channel to be.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because he figured he had to get money. That's okay.
Well, think about MTV.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Music television. How much music is on MTV?
I don't think any.
I don't think any either. My wife and I, up to a few years ago, used to watch VH1's Top 20 countdown with the videos on the weekends. We just were doing stuff. We had it on in the background. They had I can't remember the guy's name now, who was just not good at really his thing. He didn't have a lot of charisma, but that's kind of one of those things for all VJs. None of them had any real charisma. But they then replaced him with some overly eager young woman who gave off I want to be a Kardashian vibe. And the whole thing fell apart. And that was the last music videos they played. We were people who loved music videos and liked watching them and keeping up. And as of 2000 and let's see, we're living in Somerville at the time. So it had to be 2012, 2013. There just aren't any. It's almost 7-8 years now where none of the music stations play it anymore. Yeah, I guess if you go to MTV3 or whatever, you might find it, but that's it. People make them all the time. You got to find them on YouTube.
I didn't even know there was an MTV3.
Well, there is the Ocho on ESPN that's happening this weekend. If you want to watch more marble racing, they will be on. Just so you know.
Love it. I'm also sort of thinking of the guy who came up with TLC. It's 90 Day Fiancé. There's no way that's something that's going to help you learn. Well, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Can we segue completely off of 90 Day Fiancé to something else that seems equally rushed but more awesome?
Sure.
That is the NHL playoffs. I know that you are super enjoying it.
Oh my God, yes.
Because you're getting playoff hockey in the middle of the day.
Well, yeah, and I can watch all of it. I tell you, Evan, being a trophy husband is the way to go.
I will keep that in mind. I will try and get my wife to get a much higher paying job and keep me to the lifestyle to which I am accustomed.
And congrats to your Chicago Blackhawks for advancing over Edmonton. Kind of hurts me that Edmonton's out, but they get something a little interesting now, don't they? Or they could.
Yeah, and by the way, the Maple Leafs tied it up with the Blue Jackets, and they're going overtime.
Yeah.
So the playoffs are great, and I've watched a few of the games. There are a couple of problems I have with this whole thing, and one of them isn't that there are too many teams. That one, I understand what they're doing. They got all the teams that were essentially at 500 or above. There happened to be 12 of them in each conference, and had them play it out, right? My problem is twofold. One is and again, this may sound like sour grapes from a Bruins fan whose team lost the first two games of that mini seeding tournament, but I think that should just be a getting ready sort of situation. The Bruins had 17 more or 15 more points than the Flyers. The Flyers are by far the fourth best of those teams in terms of standings and are likely to get the number one seed if they beat the Lightning tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem... That completely discounts the entire regular season, right? I would honestly feel the same way if the Bruins were winning at this point. I guess I wouldn't feel as strongly about it. But the Bruins had 100 points in 70 games. They had the possibility of getting 120 points. Not that they would. They could have been 110, 115-point team. And 2 games, all of a sudden, now they're playing in the 4 seed, playing much better teams. I think that part was dumb. But the dumber part for me is that whole draft debacle is going to come back and bite them in the butt now.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember what they did with the NHL draft?
Yeah, the way that the number one pick sort of fell to a team that hasn't been eliminated yet.
Right. So they gave the playoff teams like one of the spots or a chance to win the first overall pick, but that one spot had like a 20+% chance of getting it, which makes no sense because they like aggregated what all the chances would otherwise be. But the possibility that was brought up at the time was that the 5 seeds, Pittsburgh and Edmonton, would have a chance to get the number 1 overall pick. And the NHL kind of poo-pooed it. And then that not yet the first round eliminated playoff team or preliminary eliminated playoff team ended up winning the number 1 pick. And guess who got eliminated in the first round?
That would be Edmonton.
And Pittsburgh.
Yep.
The 2 teams, Pittsburgh had a winning percentage of like .630. Like, what are they doing? It's one thing if Pittsburgh had traded for the number 1 with somebody and gotten the number 1 pick out of it. That's just like crappy luck for that team. But nobody else feels cheated in that way. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But this way, if Edmonton gets the number 1 pick, I believe, and I may have to check here, I believe that will be their 11th number 1 pick in a row.
It certainly feels that way, doesn't it? And it's translated into so much success for them so far.
I mean, the Red Wings are not a franchise who tanks. Like, that's just not how they work. But their team this year was. Like, if they were promotion relegation in hockey, they should have been relegated, like, 2 divisions. They were that bad. But they have this terrible year and somehow don't even have a top 3 pick. And the Pittsburgh Penguins, with a .630 winning percentage, get the number 1 pick of a generational talent? What are they doing?
And you know what? One of those 2 teams is going to get it.
Of course, or Nashville, who's at the 6th seed, who also had like a .580 winning percentage. They're also out.
Well, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Arizona took him out today.
Only Carolina kept their act together. Of the top 2 seeds, I guess, that were playing in this first round. But what are we doing? Also, by the way, had they not done the seeding thing, we'd have another Bruins-Montreal playoff series, which is always fun, and we're probably not going to get that.
We could.
But it'd be very unlikely.
Well, it depends on how they sort of advance. If
the Bruins are playing the Capitals tomorrow, who has 1 point. If the Bruins beat them, they're the 3 seed. But if they don't beat them, they're the 4 seed, and Montreal being the 12. Basically, all the other 3 teams would have to be eliminated as the Bruins keep winning in order for that to happen. So I don't think Montreal, even after getting through Pittsburgh, is going to be a Eastern Conference finalist team.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I completely agree with you in regards to the possibility of Pittsburgh or Edmonton or even Nashville getting that, and how ludicrous that is. What I would have done differently in regards to sort of the round robin, just basically play to keep everything up so that way you're not rusty going up against one of these teams that are on full throttle. At least tier it so that Boston like enters that tournament with, I don't know, 3 points. Philly enters with 0, and then I forget who it was. I think Tampa was second, right?
Yeah. Second would be Tampa, third would be Washington.
Okay,
Philly was fourth.
So then you tier it that way, And so then that way Boston sort of has that advantage. Now, in terms of if they drop from like 1 to 4, I mean, the fact that there's no home ice negates a lot of what that advantage was all about anyway. But still,
that is true. To be fair, that is true.
Yeah.
But I would rather be playing Montreal at this next round than playing Carolina.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Having said that, the bubbles in Edmonton and Toronto seem to be working. So kudos to whoever sort of working that through. It's
that's
very
the
impressive.
other thing. Edmonton had home ice this whole playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And
I know they're no fans, but still.
And still lost. Toronto, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they're in overtime now.
Yeah,
so.
they just got back on the ice.
They're down 2-1.
Of course, I'm an ABT guy. Anybody but Toronto. But that's how I've always been. I want to get one other take from you on the Rock Hall, if I could.
Sure.
So it's another thing that I sort of sent off to you about, and it's almost perfect when we were talking about sort of women in the Rock Hall. Because like there's a group that I champion very hard, the Go-Go's, but the people who come onto the site, because they've dropped about 40 ranks since I started the site about 6 years ago, because I respect the opinions and the votes and the comments that come in. They don't get a lot of love. Yeah. Could be a bit of misogyny. It could be also a bit of that they're considered a new wave pop band, whichever. I think they're a kick-ass pop band personally. But so it's a transcript here from the Go-Go's documentary that's coming up, I guess this month from Showtime. Can't wait to see it. So Jane Wiedland. The Rolling Stone cover was supposed to be a comment on sexism, and obviously it backfired. And the cover itself was, I guess they're all sort of in their underwear PJs. It doesn't even look that sultry at all to me. I don't know. What do you think?
No, it's Flea shows more skin every time he's in Rolling Stone than the Go-Go's did.
Well, yeah. I mean, when 3 years later, Madonna was rolling around on the floor.
Yeah, no. It's hardly risque. Like she said, I think in that they're basically like Hanes t-shirts and underwear.
Well, right.
They're not in like lingerie by any means. But go ahead.
Yeah. So then to finish, it was supposed to be a comment on sexism always backward, because if we had really been trying to be sexy and push our wares as women, we would have worn sexy underwear instead of, Hanes and Fruit of the Loom, like you said. It's so tame, but when it came out, it did not help that the Rolling Stone chose the headline, "The Go-Go's Put Out." Then, quote, Ginger Canzaneri. Sorry, I'm butchering your name. My apologies.
Give it a 7th attempt. Go for it. Okay.
yeah, exactly. Oh, there you go.
Right now, you're basically Happy Gilmore at the tee and the major, just trying to hit it over the water. Continue.
Wait, wasn't that Tin Cup?
Oh no, that's Tin Cup. Oh my God, I mixed up Happy Gilmore and Tin Cup. I need to drink more. Hold on.
Apparently, I'm supposed to drink
I'm
less.
giving myself a penalty quarter beer here because that's as much as I drink.
Yeah, let's see how my non-drinking sort of lasts this time. It won't, but anyway. Ginger, you've got to call Rolling Stone. We're not happy. We don't like that they used these pictures on the front of the magazine. So I phoned Rolling Stone and I said, Jann, some of the girls are very upset about the image used on the front of the magazine. And there was a brief pause and Jann said, I thought you were calling me to thank me for the cover. You girls need to grow up. And Jann abruptly hangs up. Quote, Belinda Carlisle, maybe that's why we're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Those ungrateful wenches, in reference to them. And then it's just like, I'm looking at this cover, it's like, this is nothing. And the Go-Go's put out, like, it's so lame, like, why they even had to go that route. For them to even sort of, like, say that. I know that someone thinks they're being really super clever. But, again, now you're talking about Jann Wenner, the dictator of this, who we know, you and I have talked about it many times, will hold a grudge like anyone's business.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, well, I mean, but that happens all the time. We talked about that as well. That Janet Jackson finally got in the Hall of Fame when the head of CBS stepped down.
Mm-hmm.
That he basically been blackballing her for years over Nipplegate, which is one of the dumbest things ever.
Mm-hmm. That
Justin Timberlake walks away scot-free, and Janet Jackson's the one with the nipples, so it's clearly her fault. And that, like, he went and apologized to, or Timberlake went and apologized, and Janet Jackson didn't, and basically held it against her forever. She should have been in years ago.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And finally got in this year after he's gone. That's how the Rock Hall works, which is part of the reason you need the term limits.
No, definitely.
And you need people like us who are further away from it and have no we have our own musical taste. But I don't have any idea how Ace Frehley is as a person.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's...
Like, I'm able...
It's the same shit that keeps Curt Schilling out. Is he an asshole? Yeah, sure seems like it. Is he a Hall of Fame pitcher? Damn right he is. But he's probably pissed off so many of those guys who have a show, who can't be objective when it comes to him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, one of the other things you sent me, and I know this is going off topic, but because Jose Reyes retired, whether he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Wow.
And I think the answer to that is a definitive no. Not that he didn't have the numbers and wasn't a great player, but the last couple of years of his career, he had a few issues there. And I feel like that's going to keep him out more than anything, although the Mets didn't care.
Although Yenis Cespedes makes him look like a great teammate, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he's not getting in the Hall either.
Yeah, well, I always think that anyone who sort of has well over 2,000 career hits deserves a brief conversation, if that. Although for me, with Reyes, if your highlight is, you won your batting title, but you made sort of the deal with the manager, like, okay, as soon as I get that first hit, I'm out, to sort of like pad my lead over your favorite ball player, Ryan Braun.
Oh, definitely my favorite ball. Oh my God. That's a would you rather for me. Would you rather pay, knowing what you know about the players, would you rather pay a 10-year, $150 million, or I guess at this point it's $250 million contract to Ryan Braun or Jose Reyes?
Or
I'm choosing between a guy who beats his wife and a guy who tries to get someone fired to cover up his drug use.
So then the real would you rather be Jose's girlfriend or the guy assigned to Ryan Braun to take his piss?
The guy assigned to Ryan Braun to take his piss, of course. Then I'm just getting beaten up and eventually vindicated, as opposed to beaten up in the press and eventually vindicated, as opposed to actual physical contact with my body.
That's very true. Yeah, I'll agree with you. Reyes, I'll make my 6-year prediction or 5-year prediction. Because he retired, his last game was in 2018, so he'll be eligible in 2024. He pitches a donut, 0.0.
Well, I'll take that, but there's no way that happens.
That he gets a 0.0?
Yeah, no, I mean, he was the NL batting champion, NL stolen base leader 3 times, Silver Slugger, 4-time All-Star, 2,000 hits, one of the most loved players on the Mets in the 2000s, and then one of the players in the Mets in 2016 through 2018.
I'd say let's put a beer on up. We're not going to remember this 6 years from now.
Yeah, are we going to? Either it's going to be alive. No, but no. If everything goes normal, I don't think he pitches the shutout. I don't think he keeps on the belt the second year. But he'll end up with like 3%.
No, I don't think so.
Huh?
No.
We'll bet a 6-pack of beer, so we'll remember 6 years from now. So we'll be more likely to remember.
Yeah, and I'll be it'll be like the 18th time from now and then that a doctor told me to stop drinking. So yeah, that works. I'll
make it a 6-pack. I'll make it a 6-pack of Sprecker's soda then.
Oh God, no! I'd much rather kill my liver and blow out my kidneys than go that route. I'm never going to do this 0% beer. That's for damn sure. All right, so if you take 3, I'll take 0. So 1.5, it's a push.
Sure, fine.
I'm not confident on this one.
We're both comfortable with that. Over or under 1.5%.
All right, beauty.
I'm saying over, you're saying under.
Yeah. I'm saying way under.
Okay. I'm saying over by more than under, but you only say way under because you think it would be negative if possible.
You know what? Better players than him have gotten 0.
Well, I mean, that's true.
Jimmy Wynn, for example, the late Jimmy Wynn, who we talked about a few shows ago.
Did Dick Allen get 0?
No, Dick Allen actually, he stayed on the ballot the whole 15 years.
Oh, did he? Okay. I was trying to think who else. There was someone else who got 0 who I can't remember. Anyway, just always remember, Jim DeShays got 1 vote, so.
He did. Yes, he did.
Put JD in the hall. That website, I don't even remember what year that was. I just remember he got 1 vote because he had to put JD in the hall thing.
And why not? At that point, it wasn't like there was 10 people crowding the ballot.
That is true, though. That is true.
So like you could do a throwaway and you're not really impacting like a Gary Sheffield.
Right. No, that's true. So, is there anything else you want to go? Do you want to go back to anything, or should we just go through the funeral march here?
Hoorah, hoorah! Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So there were a few who passed away this week. A couple I'll just mention without going too far into depth, but Mike Gale, who's a 10-year player he won, I think, a championship with the New York Nets. He also played for Louisville Colonels and the Portland Trailblazers in the 70s and into the 80s. Passed away earlier this week. 10-year NFL vet, or I think it was actually 11-year NFL vet, Tootie Robbins, who is an offensive lineman mainly for the St. Louis/Phoenix Cardinals, passed away from COVID actually earlier this week. He was only, I think it was 58. I don't have that right in front of me right now. Then 1987 Jim Thorpe Award winner, number 5 overall pick, safety Ricky Dixon, passed away. He was only 53 when he passed earlier this week. Machine Head drummer Tony Costanza passed away. He also was in his 50s. But I think there are 2 I do want to bring up. One I told you about, and one I'm going to see if you know who he was. Okay. So the first one I do want to bring up is Bob Rylan, who was 100 years old when he passed earlier this week. Ryland, for those who may not be familiar, was an American tennis player and a coach. Is the first African American to play professional tennis, and he coached a bunch of people, including Arthur Ashe, Venus Williams, Serena Williams, Harold Solomon, Bruce Foxworth, a whole bunch of other people. He was elected to. He hasn't in the Tennis Hall of Fame. He is in the Wayne State University Athletic Hall of Fame, the Black Tennis Hall of Fame, Eastern Tennis Hall of Fame, and has a Lifetime Achievement Award from there that he got in 2012. But he is a very important figure who may be largely forgotten in tennis, more for his coaching than for his actual playing. But an absolute trailbreaker at a time when there were just not that many black players playing tennis at all. Mm-hmm. So, but I thought it was important to at least bring that up. He won the. He was also one of the first black players to compete in the NCAA championships. He made it all the way to the semifinal.
Oh wow! What year was that, or does it say?
So he was in the Army from 40. He was born in 1920. He was in the Army from 41 to 45. Oh, so I believe that was 46.
Okay.
When he got back, in 47, he moved to California, and became the first professional tennis player then in 47. When he participated in the Pacific Southwest Championships. He made the finals and lost to a man named Ham Richardson, whoever that was. But that was 47. So I mean, he was 27 at the time. So we're talking Jackie Robinson color barrier time, essentially. So kind of one of those things that's happening at the same time, largely forgotten, but it's a sport which still to this day, although at least the United States is very white, although there are a lot of Latin American countries and more Asian countries have some very good tennis players. Mm-hmm. He was an absolute trailblazer. And yeah, passing it up, made it all the way to 100. So good for him.
Yeah, I'm taking tennis lessons actually down here.
I used to be a very good tennis player, and then I just got into other things and walked away from them, hoping my kids get a little bit better with their hand-eye coordination. I could take them out to some courts around here not too long, because that's something you can do and socially distance. So
that is true. That is true. Because we just did our last lesson. It's something my wife and I are doing. Actually, our coach, he's because his daughter got a scholarship at Temple to play tennis and women's soccer. And actually, so I had a chance to talk with her, and so they both met Serena and Venus, and yeah, not necessarily fans of Serena. I'll leave it at that.
Really?
Yeah, just basically is more or less said that the Serena that you see getting upset is the Serena you always see.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that was sort of a little interesting to sort of hear that.
I know this is off topic, but did you see the Nike commercial this week?
No.
With Serena and Venus? Like, no. They had a split screen about, like, this is sports, and they had, it was remarkable. Go find it. It's one of the greatest edited things that has existed in the history of mankind.
So, like, what's the theme of it?
The guys who edited it went through 45,000 hours of film.
Oh my God.
And they found athletic moments that lined up on the film and have a split screen. So, like, there's one guy kickboxing who spins in it and then comes out it on the other side as a ballerina doing a twirl from the exact same area. They have one with Venus and Serena, like, bouncing back and forth to return a serve, and it's Venus on one side and bounce the other way to Serena on the other side. They had one where there's a guy doing a long jump, jumps up, and LeBron dunks at the same time. But, like, it's perfect all the way through.
That sounds fantastic.
It's a work of art. It's like 2 minutes long, and you should just go see it if you can find it.
Can you imagine being as rich as Serena Williams and you're the poor one of the couple? It just blows my mind thinking about it. But you said there's another death that you wanted me to guess.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say Tom Brady's the same way. Tom Brady's the poor one in his couple.
Is he?
Oh, yeah. She's worth 3 times as much as Brady is.
No way.
Yeah.
Damn. I never would have known that.
Yeah. She makes more than Brady even now, every single year. Anyway. The other one is a man passed away earlier this week, born Glyn Jeffrey Ellis in Levensholme, Manchester, in Lancashire, England. October 28th, 1945. Better known by the name of Wayne Fontana. Do you know who Wayne Fontana was?
I feel like I should.
How far are you on your number ones countdown? I'll count up.
1964.
So you are about to get to him. Wayne Fontana was the lead singer of a group called the Mindbenders, who are a 2-hit wonder, although he left after their first hit, and he got replaced. So the Mindbenders' second hit is Groovy Kind of Love. If you remember that song.
Okay. Well, I only know the Phil Collins version, but yeah.
I'm sorry?
I just know the Phil Collins cover.
Right, yeah. So the original, Groovy Kind of Love, which went to number 2 in 1966. Number 1 in 1965 was their first hit. The purpose of a man is to love a woman, and the purpose of a woman is to love a man. Yeah. So Wayne Fontana, the singer of that song, passed at 74 yesterday.
If I remember correctly, I believe that was used in Good Morning Vietnam.
I believe you are correct. It's a long time since Good Morning Vietnam. I'm pretty sure you're correct. So, yeah, someone beyond what we had already done. We didn't record this yesterday because vacation pictures at a family dinner took way longer than anticipated.
That's all good.
I didn't get home until 10:30 with two exhausted kids. But no, the yesterday actually ended up working out for us, at least in terms of time. So.
No, definitely. And also, I just sit around watching sports all day, so it really didn't change much for me.
Fair enough.
All right, beauty. So next week, if barring, because the hockey revisions are almost all up. They're up to 270. There's 30 more to upload, but I want you to think it's going to be there's a lot of an international flair to the new entries.
Okay.
Yeah, especially sort of not my number 2 team when I watch international hockey, Germany. Very well represented. Unless it's the World Cup of hockey, and they're not represented at all.
We hit your hot button topic. You find a way there every single time.
I know. So
you have Recruit very high on this list.
He's on it.
I was just kidding. It's number 3, right?
Oh no, not number 3. But there is somebody who's on that who did appear representing Team Europe. You know, the team that could have almost won the whole thing. Because they made it to the finals, and if they would have won the whole, if they would have won the whole thing, 7 countries would have went nuts. No, they wouldn't have cared at all. Couldn't just put Germany and Slovakia in there. No, couldn't do that. Oh, Toronto just won.
Yeah, I just saw it pop up here. So there will be a Game 5 tomorrow night. I don't know if it's tomorrow night. It'll be Game 5.
I don't know, they certainly got a hell of a lot of momentum. I'll get that word right. Momentum. It's not even an Italian name, and I couldn't say that. Jesus. I got to drink again. I think I'm far more coherent. Or not. I don't know.
So it's good to have goals. Yeah, so let's see now. So, yeah, no, they don't play tomorrow. They play on Sunday. Game 5.
All right, awesome. So thanks so much.
That's the only Eastern Conference one still going. The Wild and Canucks are yet to play tonight. If the Canucks win that series, they advance. If not, their last game is on the 9th. And that's it. Those are the only series still going.
And then technically, that's when the real playoffs start.
Technically, yes. So, yeah, so at the moment, if the higher seed wins, so if Toronto and Columbus were essentially tied, so that's 8-9 is literally a coin flip because there's a percentage points as to who was the 8 seed and who was the 9 seed. Let's just say everything holds. We'll have Philadelphia against Montreal. We will have Toronto against Tampa. We'll have the Washington against the Islanders and the Bruins against Carolina. And on the other side, it will be, the Avalanche and Golden Knights have the exact same record. So I'll just go off that. So it'll be the Avalanche and Chicago, the Golden Knights in Arizona. That would be interesting. 2 desert teams. They're not that far apart. It would be, let's just pick. I don't know who we're going to pick. The St. Louis Blues against Vancouver and Calgary is already through, would then play the Stars. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll finally get to real playoffs here. But at this point we have, if we just went 1 through 8, we now have 1, 2, 3. We have 3 teams that shouldn't be in the final 16 with the possibility of 2 more getting in. Mm-hmm. So the one guy who blocked me on Twitter, the first person I know who's ever knowingly blocked me on Twitter, because I was asked, he was very upset about the NHL possibly playing playoffs because everything would be tainted. The NHL is for the fans, not for the players to go for the cup, and there's putting too many people at risk. I was like, well, if they figure something out, and he basically accused me of being I believe genocide was brought up.
What?
And I was like, you're bringing up a lot of angry things here. And then he just blocked me.
You were accused of genocide, the man who bastardized Claude Frollo? He
he's secretly my patron saint. No, it was basically I was wanting people to die, and I'm like, with players, if they feel safe enough to play, guys like, I brought up Chara, he's 43 years old. Like, how much longer does he just up a season where he's the number one seed going in? Like, and the guy is basically, oh, so you're a homer and you want everyone to die. He brought up some player for Toronto who was definitely going to die if they start playing hockey again. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then he blocked me. So I was kind of proud. I was like, I can't believe of all the things I've got. I'm very non-confrontational on social media in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll ask questions like, why do you think that? And basically he just swore at me and accused me of wanting to kill people and blocked me. So he's going to be very upset by this whole proceedings. But I'm only upset that I'm upset about those two things. Other than that, playoff hockey is the greatest thing in the world. So,
I'm blocked by Kevin Nash.
Why?
I don't know. I have no idea. I can't think of anything. I've never. The only, sometimes I'll just sort of like do a countdown of like, so-and-so was ranked number 4 on this list. Should they be in the Hall of Fame? And before he got into the WWE Hall of Fame, I think he had a super high rank, like top 20 or something. And so I just, if they're on Twitter, I just tag them. And usually most of them don't even bother responding, and I don't expect them to. But like obviously I'm going to tag it if they're there, because you never know what it can do. Just sometimes it's that's how I wound up getting the Richmond Webb interview. Tagged him, he started following, and I asked for the interview. Why not? So
why not? Exactly.
Yeah. So I never wrote anything bad about him.
I can't imagine. I mean, I know you like Kevin Nash, so I can't imagine why he would block me.
I actually am one of the few guys, because he's not exactly the greatest technical wrestler, but he's 7 foot 330 pounds. He shouldn't be. That's not the style of wrestling he should do.
Right. It's like saying Anthony Munoz isn't the greatest running back. Who cares?
Exactly. So he was one of those guys who I just thought did what he was exactly supposed to do. He's funny as hell. I honestly have no idea what I know. I never wrote anything offensive about him. I know I never said anything about him that's offensive, and I know I don't think anything about him that's offensive. I actually sort of defend the thing that he gets attacked the most about. So, I don't know. Don't know. I'll never know. Can't ask him, and I think even if I did, he wouldn't care. It would be a sarcastic response. So, says
Kevin Nash, if you're listening, he doesn't hate you.
No, God, no. I don't at all. I can't even think of what I could have possibly said.
Yeah. Well, that's life.
There is.
Or as my 12th grade math teacher once said, does anyone have any questions? And one of my classmates said, what's the meaning of life? And Mr. Thorne said, what's life? It's a magazine. How much does it cost? $1.25. But I only have $1. Well, that's life.
I like that.
He just said that. I remember in 12th grade math, just out of nowhere, he's like, anyone have any questions? And one of my smart aleck classmates said, what's the meaning of life? And he already had like that whole conversation prepared in case anybody ever asked him that question. So, Mr. Thorne, big ups on you. Still one of the best teachers I ever had.
I don't remember any of my teachers in high school. Of course, I didn't show up very much.
Well, showing up is half the battle. The other half is missing people with lasers, I believe. G.I. Joe. Anyway.
Oh, man. Yeah, they never hit anything. They were the A-team of cartoons.
Yes. That joke, the whole bunch of red shirts from Star Trek are are confronted by stormtroopers. Stormtroopers shoot and miss them every time. The red shirts die anyway.
Oh, I never heard this.
Yeah.
Well,
so you never wanted to be the person in a red shirt on Star Trek.
Yeah, of course, going back on this whole Star Wars thing, it's got to be original trilogy Star Wars, because apparently they learned how to shoot.
Mm. Yeah, they are much better, although they weren't great in The Mandalorian.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, Mandalorian's good. You should watch Mandalorian.
Okay, I'll have to do that.
So.
Anyway, man, I think that's sort of a great way to stop to end there on that. So possibly lots of hockey talk next week.
That sounds good. We've gone through The Mandalorian, Kevin Hart, and me being accused of genocide for wanting people to play hockey.
Actually, we didn't touch Kevin Hart.
It sounds like a good place to stop.
It was Kevin Nash. I confuse a 5'4" black.
Kevin Nash, not Kevin Hart.
Yeah, I confuse a 5'4" black guy with a 7-foot white guy all the time. So
I apologize. They both have 4-letter last names, with the second letter being an A.
And they're both funny as hell.
In my defense, the way I remember names is I will remember the first name and the number of letters and the letter pattern, and then I'll have to figure it out from there.
Or
that's just the way my brain works.
Oh.
So I'll be like, it's an E, and then there's a consonant, a vowel, and 2 consonants. And I got to figure out if that's Evans or like Emery.
I don't know why my dog is helping out here at the end of this show. Clearly, he must hear a cat.
He picks redundant. So I'll talk to you later, man. See you next week.
All right, sounds good. Later.
Bye.
Thank you all so much for listening, and if you really enjoyed that dog, that's Jasper the Friendly Corgi. You can find him on Instagram, Jasper_the Friendly Corgi. Yes, my dog has an Instagram. What of it? Thanks so much. Stay safe, everyone, and look for more content regularly at notinhalloffame.com.